Welcome to the Tech Insider, where we talk to the people who can give you the insights and trends that matter to you in your business. I'm Christine Grail with Leica Geosystems. When it comes to the latest state of the art in building construction, there are a few people I know who are always pushing the boundaries of technology to see what's possible. Joshua Marriott and Logan McGuinness of the Weitz Company are right at the top of my list. Welcome to the program, Josh and Logan.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Weitz is known for specializing fast track design build delivery. What does that mean?
Fast track design build is tighter schedules. Design is constantly evolving. I mean, typically on a design build project that's been fast tracked, I mean, design is not complete by any means. You're designing as you're building. So we have to be able to communicate that to the all the stakeholders. It's absolutely critical that information is up to date and readily available for those who need it to install work. And that's where we come into play. Is we're kind of that bridge between the office staff, the architects, engineers, coordinating all of that information and getting it to the guys in the field where it's going to make the impact, where they're installing work.
Critical path scheduling, early procurement of equipment, prefab opportunities or opportunities for offsite construction. Technology-driven collaboration is huge, and Josh was saying that's where we come in. Regulatory and compliance expertise and experts who can help with the permitting process are also essential, as there is a compressed schedule. But I think the opportunity for VDC on these projects is huge, and we are an integral part to making these projects run smoothly.
I just honestly I would not know how you could build some of these projects without integration of VDC.
What does fast track really mean for your clients?
It means getting the building operational and occupied as quickly as possible. So again, when we do a fast track design build project, again, you're typically designing as you're building to compress that schedule.
Weitz has built a phenomenal VDC team with the two of you leading the charge. You rely heavily on technology and specifically laser scanning. I know Weitz has been using laser scanning for quite some time. What are some of the biggest benefits that you see from the use of laser scanning?
Too many to list. So many benefits. I mean, whether you're using it for as-built data capture, for turnover deliverables, whether you're using it to QC items as they're installed, identify problems beforehand, or capturing conditions so you can install prefabricated elements. I mean, the uses for it are immense. So it allows us to efficiently capture as-built data in a way and in a time frame that is much more feasible than trying to capture anything by hand or relying on trade partners to provide us updated drawings or models. We can go out and scan. So, for instance, on this project, we were scanning in-slab conduit, rebar, and sleeving in the decks for documentation, all of which were to a level of detail that is not technically modeled by our trade partners or designers, as well as in-wall conduit framing, any other elements that aren't traditionally modeled as part of this process. We were able to capture overhead MEPF, and all of this capture helped us not only with quality control and verification, but also with error detection and corrections, and allowed us to mitigate external challenges before items were installed, as concrete was poured. So, for instance, we identified a concrete roof slab that was sloping too far, and we had a prefabricated section of curtain wall that was supposed to fit there. We were able to identify that in a laser scan before curtain wall was installed, before any embeds were installed. We were able to grind this down before that to ensure a seamless fit. So it gives us an opportunity to allow our trade partners to correct their work if there is anything off, so that it does not hinder installation of any other trades. This allows us to save an immense amount on rework. I mean, you think about like core drilling one hole in a deck because the sleeve was placed improperly, and multiply that cost by, I don't know, the 100 sleeves that we might have captured and QC'd before concrete was poured. It's an immense cost savings. It's a really valuable tool. And so even if you were laser scanning for one purpose and for a specific deliverable, the amount of data that you capture that ends up being useful to all stakeholders in just problem solving and catching things you wouldn't otherwise is invaluable.
It's all about communication. I mean, the name of the game here, and that peace of mind comes with the ability to communicate what we're doing, how we're doing it to the stakeholders, like you mentioned. Laser scanning gives us that ability to digitize that space, and that digital information can then be shared with all the stakeholders, not just the ones that are on site putting in the work, but the designers, the architects, the people that are not even, geographically within the region that are contributing to that project. I mean, it takes a whole team to build this project, and a lot of times we have elements of that team that are many states away, and being able to utilize that information, and it's real information, right? Because we're digitizing that space down to the millimeter, and being able to share that. I mean, there's no longer any kind of confusion or miscommunication about what is occurring on the job site, what conditions look like. It's not, I like the term, a picture says 1,000 words, but when you take that picture to the next level and you add another dimension to it, whether it's through video or a measurable digitization such as a point cloud, I mean, that speaks a million words, right? You're clearing up any of that confusion and misunderstanding that may occur.
Yeah, that's it right there. Is just not having any finger pointing anymore, because you have that definitive data set that everyone can see and understand. And I think that's the key part, right? Is that they can understand what it is they're looking at. And so you've removed any of those questions that used to come up. Well, you're looking at a drawing, all you see is lines. Is this really supposed to be there? How accurately was this measured? Now you have definitive data to know what everyone is looking at. That's huge.
It is.
Right. It's a definitive source of truth for the project team, for trade partners, for all stakeholders. So if issues arise, we can pull up a scan overlaid on the model or just the scan, and we can illustrate this is what's actually in the field. These are the issues that have arisen. This is the person that has to, or this is the party that has to move. These are potential issues that could arise from how things are installed, or everything's installed properly and we have that documented. So it's an amazing tool to have that source of truth for what is actually out there.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Now, Logan, you mentioned the cost savings because of all the benefits that you outlined. But I think for a lot of companies that are in building construction, a lot of general contractors, they still look at laser scanning. They see the cost first. They see that price tag. And it can be kind of intimidating when you look at not just the hardware and the software, but also the people that you have to invest in, especially if you don't already have a VDC team, right, that can take the reins and lead the charge. How did Weitz first get started in laser scanning? Did you start by outsourcing and then bring it in house? Or did you just jump right in with the laser scanners there at Weitz?
So for many years before I joined, so I've been with Weitz for about 5 years now. And before I joined the team, the company was outsourcing it. Projects were outsourcing it individually. And when I joined the team, it was part of the conversation like, hey, this is something we need to look at doing ourselves. And what do we need to actually make that happen? Where my in past life, previous employer, that was part of my role, was implementing and rolling out different technologies. So we started looking at it. We looked at what we were spending outsourcing it. We were looking at what we were getting out of it. That end product. What was it? Was it sufficient for our needs? Did our teams understand what they were getting, or when they outsource something, the right questions to ask that third party? It was very quick within the first year of me joining the team that I found Logan and brought Logan to our team. And Logan was on a project that was our first in-house attempt at laser scanning. And I don't want to say attempt because it was an absolute success. And it was because we had Logan and she dove right in. We bought, a very expensive set of equipment and all the software that went with it. And I kind of handed that off to Logan and said, hey, learn how to use this and make something happen. And that's exactly what she did on that project. And, within the last 4 years, that tool and our capabilities with it have grown exponentially.
So, Logan, I have to ask, what was that like when you were handed all that equipment and Josh said, here, figure this out? I mean, that's a lot of pressure.
That was a lot of late nights on YouTube and laser scanning forum and Reddit and talking to others in the industry, trying to figure out best practices, as well as some training from the party that we bought the scanner from.
Leica.
Leica, yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. It took some time to get our heads around, control and making sure that scans are on control and their models are geolocated and they're meshing together. Having a reliable surveyor to provide this data, we definitely had some heartburn with that. It was a learning experience for sure. I think it was successful. The outcome that we bought this to implement on the project was successful, but it was definitely a learning curve at the beginning. Leica was great in helping us get started with trainings, but it was a lot of trial and error testing. Learned a lot, especially the protection of concrete bollards if you are placing targets on top of them to scan. And even if they are bright orange and fluorescent spray painted, they will still get knocked over by construction equipment. That was one of the takeaways. But yeah, it was a fun challenge. It was fun to dive headfirst into it.
It was impressive to see Logan because again, it was kind of a task that was thrown on her on that project. But it was impressive to see that within a month she was producing accurate data that was usable and actionable by the project team. Within 6 months, I mean, I would say she was an expert at it, and figuring out there's a lot of other expertise other than just running the equipment that is required. The knowledge of software and like Logan mentioned, survey is huge, and understanding coordinate systems and how all of that intermingles with the data, and then being able to bring that data into other softwares to make it actionable and deliver an end product. The value that we're getting out of this, and you kind of touched on it, is a lot of people look at the cost first, the cost of the equipment, the cost of the process, but they're ignoring, and I this goes a lot with a lot of different things VDC does and contributes to the project, and it's getting out of that mindset that this upfront cost is preventative. What has to be looked at is, what is this going to save us? If we prevent one mistake using this technology, most of the time that pretty much pays for the technology itself. Preventing an error or preventing rework, preventing it's assurance. It's performance assurance. It's making sure that we're building what we say we're going to build, what was planned to be built, and assuring that that is actually occurring.
I think it's also worth noting, I mean, everyone knows in our industry, time is money. And you look at the time saving that you get by performing a service such as laser scanning. Like I mentioned before, when you're capturing something, even if you have a set deliverable that you're going out to capture, all of the data that is useful and actionable in that data for other applications that might not be needed or known is needed during time of capture, that is so valuable and can provide such time saving to the project team instead of hiring someone to go out and figure out, where is this slab? What potential issues is it going to create? A duct is installed wrong. What are the potential ramifications of that? We have that capability all in house now, and the amount of time you're saving on the schedule by having someone on site who knows how to run these systems, knows how to extrapolate this data, can problem solve quickly on their feet, can work with trade partners to figure out, okay, this is what needs to be done. This is how we do it. Go instead of waiting weeks and weeks for third parties or others to get involved to figure out these issues. It's been, again, invaluable. And while the upfront investment is intimidating, the ROI you get on it is just it's immeasurable. I mean, we can track things that were caught during coordination and caught by analyzing point clouds overlaid on the model. I'm sure we can come up with facts and figures, but even that is a bottom number or a low number of what this ROI actually is.
That is a great way to put it. I love that because it explains the value so well. I think we see a lot more companies taking a look at laser scanning right now, the whole concept of a reality capture, because over the last few years, there's been so much discussion about digital twins, and the idea of creating digital twins is gaining in popularity. But that also creates some issues because not everyone thinks of the same thing. When you say the term digital twin, there's a disconnect in expectations when you're talking to an architect versus an engineer versus a general contractor and even your clients. What do we do with that disconnect? How do we get everyone on the same page when we're talking digital twins?
We've had this conversation before. I've had this conversation with my team. I'm not a big fan of the term digital twin because it's so ambiguous. I think, if digital twin is going to be a term that we use as a buzzword that it as it's become over the last few years, there has to be some definition put behind it. Exactly what are we talking about? What is the digital twin? What is the digital twin in this context for this project, for this specific need? It has to be defined. And that's a big part of what we do. I mean, when we propose on a project, or our internal team comes to us and says, hey, we need VDC on this project. Well, what does that mean? Right. And so it's a big part of our job and our role to sit down and define you need VDC on the project. Well, let's look, where's the value? What are the risks on the project that VDC can assist with or address? Is it model coordination? Is it model creation? Is it shop drawings? Is it concrete lift drawings? What is the need on the project? And we do that through our BIM execution planning process. And that document basically becomes the definition and defines how we're going to perform on that project, what is going to be delivered, what formats information is going to be put together in, how communications are going to run, frequency of deliverables and communication and information, how often are we meeting. All of that gets defined in that BIM execution plan. I think that digital twin, if it's going to be utilized in that manner, there needs to be a digital twin execution plan that defines what that means, what it looks like on that specific project.
I think the term digital twin, as Josh mentioned, it means a lot of different things to different people. So designers are focused on aesthetics and compliance. Contractors are focused on construction phase coordination. Owners expect long-term asset management and predictive maintenance, but they might not have a clear definition of what data is needed. So everyone has a different goal for their model. I think defining, again, what is needed at the beginning of a project is crucial. So it's data handover protocols are often unclear, and the owner may be asking for a digital twin, but not really be sure what they are asking for. Are they asking for an as-built model? Are they asking for a model that has COBie data integrated with it? Are they expecting sensors for building feedback to be integrated? So really, like, sitting with a client at the beginning of a project and defining what are the protocols, what is actually needed, what data is actionable, or is it just excess that is not going to actually integrate with your facilities management system. I think those are all crucial conversations that have to happen at the beginning of a project. I would encourage owners to maybe engage with consultants who can provide direction, or work with the contractor while we're doing our BIM execution, project execution plans at the beginning. Also crucial as an owner is making sure that the owner understands the budget implications, as well as the level of detail of model turnover deliverables, especially if it has data tied. I mean, when we're talking digital twins now, we're talking about modeling costs and modeling manpower that is far exceeding the general coordination standards that are needed for a job. So just making sure that clients understand not only what they're asking for, but that they have the budget allocated to achieve this kind of delivery.
That is such a good point. I know one of the big projects that Weitz handled recently was at the University of Florida. And I believe that you were aiming for a level of development of 5, which is the highest level. And you often wish that you could do that to really use all of your skills and technology, but clients aren't always willing to do what it takes on their end to really make sure to see it through. And in this case, they were, and you saw substantial benefits. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So we maybe want to talk about the initial conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're right. We did a project for the University of Florida. It was 5 buildings, all going up simultaneously, and that the University of Florida is a very savvy client. They have a great facility management department, and they actually utilize the models. Unlike a lot of other owners or clients that you hand them a model, they don't know what to do with it. So when we originally were approached by them and the discussion started on what was going to be required for this project, they came in and said, "Hey, we want an LOD 500 model." Which, I mean, in the years that I've been doing this, the only project that we were required to do an LOD 500 model on was for NASA, right? And you're modeling every nut and bolt. We tried to communicate to what we communicated to them is, one, you don't have the budget for this, and we don't have the time. I mean, 5 buildings going up simultaneously. We had multiple trade partners, on different. We had multiple plumbers, multiple concrete companies doing these different buildings, so we could build them simultaneously. We told them it's just we're not capable of doing that in the time frame and budget that we've been provided. But what if we did this? We said, what if we laser scanned the project as we went? It's going to give you more information than an LOD 500 model would give you. And we can integrate that with the coordination model so you can see both model data as well as reality intermingled with one another. And being that we do this during construction, it'll be kind of like an onion. You can kind of peel back those layers to get to the information that you need. They were ecstatic. They said, "This is where we see the industry going. This is what we see for our projects in the future. This is a great idea. Let's do it." So that's basically how we went forward with this project. Starting from the beginning was, every week we had boots on the ground, laser scanning some piece of that building that was under construction.
And that, as I mentioned earlier, that incorporated scanning slabs before concrete was poured to document everything that was such a high level of detail. It was not captured in the traditional modeling process, as well as everything in wall, overhead. So we're able to capture some millimeter level accuracy. We were using the RTC 360 for a lot of this, the conditions that are actually present in the field. We did provide models that were for areas that were we turned over all these point clouds to the owner, so they have all this data. And again, it was through different phases of construction, so we captured everything. We also had our trade partners update their models to as-built conditions in areas that were crucial for facilities management to have that in their Revit model, as well as provided COBie data on a lot of the MEP equipment. So again, that's something, kind of 2 separate deliverables there, with having COBie data integrated with the Revit model and spreadsheets that can be generated from that, as well as laser scans that reflect the accurate physical conditions of all this equipment to the millimeters, to the millimeter.
So we did that as a deliverable to the client because it was requested, but the value that those scans provided during construction we can't overlook that. I mean, it's the team was consistently referring to that data, referring to those scans, to look at what was, areas that were covered up. If a question came up, hey, did a subcontractor install this conduit? Was this receptacle put in the right location? Where does this run go, right? Once that wall is closed up or that slab is closed up, unless you have that model accurate, you don't know. But with the laser scan and the data that we had there, it was just, flipping back a couple pages and flipping back a couple weeks and looking at the data.
Do you see that as being an extreme use case of the technology that you have, or do you think that applies to other projects as well?
I think for us, it was extreme to what we've done to this point, but seeing how successful, I definitely see this being of value to any project in the future. If you have if the we're seeing a lot more mobile technology. You know, a big piece of the scanning and what makes it kind of a burden or burdensome on a project like this is the time it takes, right? You've really got to have a full-time person and they're scanning all day long every day, right? If we're able to have technology that reduces that time, it's going to create a huge advantage on that project and make that data a lot more accessible and a lot more valuable.
And it sounds like you did have some of that technology on this particular project. I believe in addition to the RTC 360, you were using the handheld BLK to go.
We used a BLK. We used a couple different systems on this project to achieve that end goal, and intermingled all of that data together to produce that concise deliverable at the end of the project. So it was multiple technologies being used, including drones.
Why did you choose Leica from the outset? Was there something about the company or something about the technology that really drew you to it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did when we started evaluating what equipment we wanted. We're looking at what we needed. What was our goal with bringing lidar scanning in house, and how that could vary from project to project. And so we wanted kind of a system that could be used in different use cases, right? And so when we started evaluating, the different major manufacturers and equipment, and kind of sitting down and do a comparison between all the equipment, Leica hands down beat out the competitors from the information that we had, and a lot of that came down to the processing. And my experience had shown that for every hour you're out scanning, there's probably 5 to 10 hours worth of processing. And Leica, with some of the technology that they had, kind of flipped the script on that. And a lot of the processing was happening as we were scanning. And what is the phrase I'm looking for?
We're definitely doing it in parallel.
Yeah.
And I think a big component of this is right tool for the right job. So evaluating scanners, are you using a terrestrial scanner? Are you using a mobile scanner? Taking into account the accuracy levels of each of those. Really, what is your end goal? What do you need to capture? Are you capturing a scan for prefabrication where you need it to be accurate to a few millimeters? Are you capturing a scan for a quick QC check where it's okay if it's not accurate to a millimeter? Maybe it has a few centimeters or even an inch of variation, and we're just doing a quick check to make sure that for instance, our duct or plumbing lines are not egregiously off. We liked that Leica had solutions for both of these options. We did use a range of tools, but I think that's one thing that was attractive about Leica is it didn't, the company doesn't focus on just terrestrial or just mobile lidar. There are solutions for both that can be used in conjunction with each other on the same softwares.
Yeah. It's registration is what I was trying to think of, and the auto registration that the software allowed us was a huge selling point and a factor in our decision making.
I think also just the power behind the RTC 360 in particular. I mean, that's the scanner that I started with and the most familiar with. I haven't seen that quality of accuracy and density of point cloud with a lot of other scanners. I mean, there are other great solutions out there as well, but that's still kind of the leader in my mind, and the one that we really use for heavy scanning work when we need real tight accuracy.
Now that you've been using laser scanning for several years, going back, it sounds like you've been using laser scanning for at least 4 years, 5 years, close to that.
5 years.
What changes have you seen on your ability to promise certain timelines to clients, and then also achieving those timelines, and then also in terms of accuracy? I would imagine that as you get more and more proficient with laser scanning, with working with that data, and seeing all the different ways that you can apply it, that you're feeling more confident in what you're able to promise and what you're able to deliver on.
Absolutely. I mean, being that we brought this service in-house over the last, I would say, especially 3 years, we have seen uh, the rate of requests that we get for that service has gone up exponentially. I mean, we've got multiple scanners now, and we have a team that is using them, and they're traveling quite a bit to go to these projects and get things done. And yeah, the expertise is huge. That the more that the team has utilized the systems, understands its capabilities, we're now able to confidently can commit to our project teams. Here is what I can do for you. Here's how it's going to benefit you. And they're really educating the teams, because a lot of our field staff, a lot of our operations team don't understand what the scanners are used for and why they would need them or why they would want them on their project. So once we get our foot in the door with a team like that, we're able to show them the value of that information and what we're able to do with it. And the confidence level that we have to deliver that has definitely gone up. Would you say?
I'd say also the deliverables we're able to create from these laser scans, that has increased as well. So we started off capturing for just verification, right? Like verifying that steel was in the correct place. That was kind of the main goal for our first project. We've increased that to floor flatness analysis, elevator shaft plumbness, using tools like Verity to ensure that certain components are installed where they are supposed to be, measuring the delta, seeing even like the rotation of certain like steel members or MEP members that are in the field versus the model. We also have started a pretty robust like scan to BIM program that's being pushed, especially in renovation spaces. So what started out as we're using it for this deliverable has grown into these are the multiple things we can do with this, and it's really just working with project teams to identify what data is really needed and what the end goal is. So I would just say what we're able to deliver and what we're able to provide with the service now as compared to when we first started is grown exponentially.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I mean, Weitz has been able to break down so many of the barriers that previously existed in construction in terms of speed and efficiency, in terms of accuracy, in terms of communication. It almost sounds like construction's easy now, which I know isn't the case, right? It's like, nah, just get out your Legos. But what barriers do you think still exist? What are you facing next in terms of challenges, in terms of the industry? What challenges do we need to overcome as an industry next, now that laser scanning has helped with a lot of these other challenges?
Oh, I feel like that's a little bit of a loaded question, because I think the challenges are endless. Um, you know, the unique thing about the construction industry here in the U.S. is every project is different, right? I mean, we're not a manufacturing facility building widgets where everything coming out the door is exactly the same, and we can kind of fine tune that process. Every single project has challenges. I think technology, robotics, laser scanning, drones, AI. I mean, they're all going to make an impact, but the the use of them is going to be as diverse as the solutions. It has to be, because of just the nature of our industry, that diversity of projects and the challenges that are going to be faced. Um, it's so different. Everything's different, and you have to really look at it that way and go into every project understanding that, hey, this is going to be different than the last one I was on, and it helps to try to identify some of those risks as early as possible. And again, utilizing VDC and technology to mitigate some of those risks is I mean, it's why we have a future. Um, but overall as an industry, I don't know how you solve that across the board. You just can't.
Yeah, so I'm sure we all know like the construction industry is one of the slowest to adopt to new technologies. So I think that's a challenge, and I think a lot of that being mitigated comes through education. So we're focusing heavily on doing training programs and lunch and learns and making sure that project teams really understand not only what this technology is, but how it can be used and how it can be used on specific projects. I would say industry wide, that's probably something to note is just education on VDC technology and the the ROI you get on it is really important.
It almost sounds like for every answer you figure out in construction, you better have 5 more questions ready so that you know what is needed next and you know what direction to go. What are you most excited about as you look to the future of your role in VDC, but also just with everything, all the technology development and all the changes that have happened in industry?
That's a great question. I mean, for me, and something that we're internally watching very closely, obviously, is AI. I think right now we just kind of looked at it, and I think there's over 400 different AI systems for construction specifically. So we're watching that very closely and how it's going to impact our jobs. I think robotics. We're starting to see more robotic companies provide solutions. I mean, it's pretty well known the construction industry has consistently for the last 50 years faced a labor shortage. And as we see more and more of the experienced people leaving the industry, we're going to need to fill that gaps between robotics and AI. I mean, I see that as transformative technology that is going to be a workforce multiplier for our industry. So that's where I'm really excited about it and watching it closely and having lots of conversations about it. We're dabbling in it where we can and trying to leverage and figure out the value for us with these different technologies. But anything I think technology wise that can contribute to help to make us faster and more efficient is definitely going to be impactful for our industry.
I'm really excited about the integration of things like gaming engines and virtual reality. Think about, for instance, doing logistics of a job site in something like Unreal or Twinmotion and being able to get that into a headset and doing, for instance, a safety training offsite before anyone even gets on the job site. I know that's something that the military, the Navy has invested heavily in is with these ships that people go out on. They'll do like a year-long intensive VR training. So they know where everything is before they even step foot on that ship. If you can apply that same sort of framework to a construction site, it makes the safety aspect of it extra a lot more tangible, a lot more welcoming, and just ensures that we are working safely before we're even on the job site.
It is so fun to imagine what comes next with everything that we have access to, all the technologies that are being developed now, everything that you already are using. I look forward to watching Weitz and seeing how you guys apply technology, and I will absolutely be following up. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, Josh and Logan. It has been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Christy. It's been a pleasure speaking with you as well.
Thank you.
Be sure to check out the description for additional resources on this topic. If you enjoyed this content, give us a like. If you'd like to see more of this content, be sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Tech Insider.